When high school is a prison, you'll better walk the walk or you'll be lined in chalk. Let's talk about The New Guy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are back, the Out of the Storm podcast. Daniel, can you please let the people know what we're going to be discussing today or debating?
So this is Have You Seen, in which we talk about a movie that some of us know well and others have just seen for the first time. This week, we're talking about the 2002 comedy The New Guy, which is one of my favorite comedies that I kind of just randomly encountered probably somewhere around 2005. So to maybe just summarize what the movie's about. So essentially, it's about this guy, Dizzie, who is kind of this outsider or considered loser in high school. He's got this group of dorky friends. They play in a funk band together. Dizzie essentially tries to get expelled from his school on purpose in order to kind of start over afresh in another high school. And in doing so, he actually ends up briefly in prison. The inmates take pity on him when they realize he's a high schooler and teach him some basic survival skills. And then he starts over in his new school. And because he gets to play the tough guy, he's immediately accepted by everybody and becomes this rock star. And the whole thing then comes together when his new school plays his old school in football championships or something like that. And then he has to pick between being popular and being genuine. You guys just saw it for the first time, right? So what are your impressions and takeaways with The New Guy?
I'm going to caveat that, actually. So I do feel like I have watched it before, but it's one of those ones where I haven't watched it in a very long time. So it was like a fresh watch for me. But as I was watching, I was like, it was very familiar. This is like the type of movie that when I was growing up made me want to move to America and maybe want to live in America. But just like kind of like the teen culture and stuff like that, and like the whole like atmosphere around like sort of some of the football games and stuff like that. It was just kind of giving me some of those nostalgic feels. But kind of like overall as a movie, this movie is stupid, but in all the best ways possible stupid. Like this is like there's just like so many like stupid things happening in this movie that just like, why is this happening? But it's also like funny at the same time. No, I had a like great time kind of like rediscovering this movie. When he sort of comes from sort of prison and he's got like this like whole like gag with the police officers to like drop him off and make him look like the most like badass guy person ever. It's just like dumb stuff like that where you're just like, I can't believe like it's like they thought of like the most like wackiest thing or like the most like what's like a typical thing that will make someone like potentially seem cool and like dangerous or whatever like that, and then you just kind of like dialed it up to 100, which was great. So yeah, I don't know, I had a really good time watching this.
Yeah, it was fun. I can't say nostalgia, but it definitely was relatable, because I think it's relatable in many schools. Like the bad boy would always get the girls, or just they'll always be the one that's popular. It was fun to see, man. I liked how they were like different. I don't want to say the black culture is a bad man culture. That's not what I want to say. But it was you could see how different culture, like the whole white culture and the black culture, how parts of that kind of like came together, and how they kind of they made fun of the stereotypes, and do you know what I'm saying? There was many of that going on. So I kind of liked the mixture in cultures, just how that was done. And overall, I had a fun experience with this one. I caught some of the references, I think, especially like at the end with the whole I think it was a Viking reference at the end, like in the last football game, which was fun.
So what was the part of this that really stood out to you guys?
As soon as I saw Eddie Griffin, I was like, okay, cool, like we're in for a good time. I don't know, I've enjoyed Eddie Griffin anytime like I see him, anytime he's done like any type of like stand up, he's just, I don't know, brings good energy. But I quite like this sort of kind of Dizzy story in this, in terms of sort of trying to like reinvent yourself and trying to repurpose who you are, and sort of the whole idea of the movie of being, you're not always sort of who you were like previously, and you can kind of grow and change who you are, but at the same time, don't lose morals and the good values that you had sort of within you, because like, obviously there was like points in this movie where he was kind of shying away from his friends, and then it kind of turns out that the girl that he was like super into sort of went through a similar journey. So actually, like underneath sort of this comedy, it was just like I wouldn't say like heartfelt, but it was just like a kind of like a good warming sort of story behind it, and just in terms of sort of trying to navigate your way through high school and trying to sort of navigate who you are. So yeah, no, it was a really enjoyable sort of story underneath.
And I think that is really something that kind of defines this movie for me. That on the one hand is this really crude and stupid teen comedy from the early 2000s. But at the same time, like, what is it about? It's about anti-bullying. It's about acceptance. It's about inclusion, right? It's about being genuine and about rejecting like society's expectations of you, right? And yet its attitude is very looking backwards, right? Looking at like the stupid teen comedies, like maybe something like American Pie or something that has kind of been left behind by the culture in the last 20 years, right? I actually think this movie treats those topics actually decently well. It's just, it does so with a sense of fun. Ultimately, the effect that Dizzie has on the school is that everybody gets together and everybody gets along and everybody kind of, like, there's this short guy who plays the tuba who gets bullied early on and now he's everybody's best friend. When the villain from the old school shows up, people are just like aghast that he would curse, for instance, right? So it's this whole thing about now that somebody has broken through kind of the boundaries of society, we can all get along and we all realize that we never had a problem with each other in the first place, right?
To be honest, like as I was like watching it, and of course it's not a superhero movie, but it kind of like almost reminded me of kind of like an origin story of a superhero in terms of like, you know, when they obviously they kind of start off a little bit, you know, whatever, nerdy and this, that, and the other. And then he kind of discovers this new power that he has and sort of in this new environment, in this new school. And then at first he's kind of like misusing it as like they're doing sort of the hero's journey. And then eventually he kind of realizes that with his power he can actually do good and like kind of like make a change or whatever. Like, so it was kind of
you might
weird,
say
like,
that great responsibility comes with that great power.
Honestly, like genuinely, I just had Spider-Man. Like I didn't say Spider-Man, but I genuinely had Spider-Man in my head the whole time I was watching the movie. I was like, this is so weird. I was like, well, I don't know why this reminds me of like such a superhero arc.
And he has a superpower in this too, right? What's it called? The death stare or something? The crazy eyes. Yeah.
Crazy eyes. Yeah.
It's basically a superpower.
Yeah, no, I think it handles a lot of that well, and again, like you mentioned, it kind of goes against what was seen as not the norm, but sort of what was kind of like popular at the time. You know, your American Pie, you had like, you know, your Chads and your jocks and like the cool guys and this, that, and the other. And of course, you can imagine, you know, in its time, everyone that maybe wasn't that sort of, you know, wanted to be that and wanted to be something that popular because it's being portrayed in all of these movies and sort of kind of like everywhere you see. And this just kind of goes to show that you could try to sort of fit in and try to be like that, but you know, that's not really who you are. And if you kind of like just stay true to who you are and like, you know, actually show who you are, then people will like you, you know, people will sort of actually give you some time of day, which is good.
But it's never heavy about it, right? It always finds a way to have fun with wherever it's at in the story, right? I would say, right? Because like there are moments where he has kind of this crisis of faith where he's not sure whether he should be his genuine self or his popular self and things like that. But then the movie will make sure to insert a joke or have something exaggerated. Like when the entire school comes together to face their rivals, they do this Braveheart homage, which is just the most ridiculous thing. Like they didn't have to put that in, right? They could have just had them show up at the game, right? Or when he kind of gives his pep talk to the football players and dresses up like General Patton, and somehow there's a giant flag just lying around to use as a backdrop. And then there's one of the iconic jokes of this movie where I said we didn't give up when Pearl Harbor was bombed. And then some guy says, I thought that movie made money, which is one of the enduring jokes of this movie. Or the party where kind of he sees kind of the cost of going back to his genuine self. Like this is what, like he immediately gets invited to this party that he would normally never have been invited to. And then it kind of shows what he has to give up if he ever goes back. Right, but that sequence by itself also has lots of fun with it, where like he crashes his friend's father's bike, so his friends tie like a rope to it so it can look like he can drive away, and that by itself turns into a stunt again. There's always something fun going on, I think. Even when people have this heartfelt moment, there's still jokes going on, I think. Like even like when they have this concert at the end, and this entire thing was a setup by the villain to kind of expose him. There's still stuff going on here, right? We're not just giving a big speech about how we're meant to feel.
One thing that I really liked about what they did in this was how they played on the whole, how they firstly played on to like his fake persona and his fake character and the whole bad boy image, but they used a method where it's like, even though everything fell out of place, it still fell in place at the same time, if that makes sense. As in, like, for example, there was a scene with, I think when he beat up the guy in the new school, and then obviously everyone went, and then he forced his way, I think he dragged his body into the school, everyone went into the classroom again, and then at the end of it, they all ended up seeing. That's one. Another one was when he was with the girl, when they went up to the balcony or something, and he ended up dropping, which led to him ending up finding his actual girlfriend. So it's like everything, I liked how, because usually in movies like this, when things usually fall out of place, that's just about it. There's no like real link or build up to it. But this is like, even though everything fell out of place, it still fell into place. with, you know what I'm saying, with him as a character.
It was almost like, because he had like so much confidence, he couldn't fail, because like everything he was doing, even when he was like playing with the lighter and he's like flicking it or whatever, and he's almost like burnt himself, he's then set the thing on fire, and it's just like made him look even cooler or whatever. I don't know. It was just like kind of like fun to watch how that was like unfolding in there. Even when Daniel was mentioning about like the whole like bike thing, and obviously when he like pulls up and he just like completely like outshines Tony Hawk because he's just like done this like whole Superman jump with the bike and stuff like that. It's just like, no, that was definitely like a good gag that they had sort of kind of running throughout the whole movie, where just because he was like so confident, because he was just like whatever, like luck was on his side and just like everything was falling into place.
That is why I keep coming back to this movie, because as a high school comedy, I think it's a bit above average. I think the characters are a bit more likable than normal. The jokes are a little bit funnier. The set pieces are a little bit more inventive than normal. But by itself, it's not an amazing movie, right? But I think the reason I keep coming back to it is that it's fun. Like, I have fun when I watch this, even though I know the lines and even though I've seen, like, there's no surprises, right? That kind of drives home the point for me of why so many modern movies fall short for me. It's because they're not fun and they don't want to be fun. Right? They want to be somber and heavy and like have a big message and whatever. And they forget to be fun in the process. They all want to talk about their childhood trauma. They all want to work through their relationship with their father, whatever it might be. It's always something heavy. And that's completely regardless of whether it works or not and whether or not it's well done. It's just, but it has to be there. And nobody wants to make a fun movie. And this movie is just fun from start to finish. Kind of, it starts with this guy dancing in his underwear to funk music. And it kind of sets the tone for the entire movie. I'm not saying it's the best at this exactly. I'm just saying it's rare these days.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's just, it's just a reflection of the times that we're in. That's what's like, but I think you've said this before, like, in terms of like what's popular in the film industry, it changes. So we're just in a time, I don't know how long this time has lasted for, but we're just in a time where trauma is what sells. So I'm pretty sure we'll get back to a time where, I'm waiting for the time till we get back into found footage type of movies. So I'm pretty sure we'll get back into the time where fun movies is going to be, back in fashion. But you are right. I do see what you're saying.
Like you said, it's just entertaining throughout. Like, there isn't a moment where you feel like it's dragging. I feel like a lot of these movies as well at the time just had like the right runtime. Just like the hour and a half mark of just like, kind of, here's a linear story, here's some jokes that will carry you throughout the movie, and you're just in for an entertaining ride. As long as you're into the that type of humor, into that type of jokes, then you're in for a good time. And then like I said, for me, it was just like the stupidity of everything that was just like happening. It was just like everything was just the most over the top and like the most ridiculous thing you can probably imagine. And that's where I was kind of getting my fun from in this movie. Even the whole situation of, like, I don't even know why, I just found it funny, but like when there was like the three of them in the prison and they were just like dancing and they were taking turns to like be in the middle and dance stuff. I don't know why we're doing this.
And then he teaches those moves to the cheerleaders in the next scene.
Yeah. And it's just honestly ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know. It just like, for me, it hit me in all the right ways.
I think the thing that really encapsulates this movie is the Whip It song. That is kind of the one that always gets referenced. You can find like YouTube compilations of it and like all over the place. And it's like a 70s funk song, but covered by like an early 2000s punk rock song. Mm. So that is what Dizzie really is, dressed up as what everybody wants him to be.
Yeah.
And that kind of like that's his entire character arc, right? And he brings those two things together in that song. I don't know if this resonates if you're just a couple of years younger than that, but like for me, this is kind of exactly what teen culture was like in like 2002.
For me, it was just reminding me of Alien Ant Farm and the Smooth Criminal rendition that they did of that. Obviously, I wasn't like too big and like didn't know much else outside of that, but it did kind of like have that resonance in terms of just being familiar with and just like reminding me of that and be like, okay, I remember this was a time. I remember like this was kind of a wave at the time, even though I wasn't like super in it myself, but I just kind of could call back to it.
Do you guys think this film is as deep as you're making it sound, though? Both of you.
No.
Don't get twisted. Okay.
So I think that's in there, and I think that is why they did this. I don't know the exact story of this. Like, I don't know if they approached this band to cover the funk song, or if they had already covered the funk song, and that's why they were picked or whatever. I don't know which way around it happened. I do think that like the secret of this movie, or the reason why it resonates with people, is that it's dumb fun with a message and do two things to support each other rather than being in conflict. Like in a lot of that's kind of what I was getting at earlier, that in a lot of modern movies we are cutting out the fun because the heavy message is what counts, and this one kind of combines the two. And the two together are the movie, right? If you strip out the whole thing about going beyond like cliques and rejecting bullying and stay being true to yourself, if you take that out, it's no longer the same movie. It's just a bunch of high school jokes. And there's a couple in here that have nothing to do with the movie itself, right? This whole thing about Tony Hawk and these two guys, where like they get on his nerves, so he yells at them, so they break a skateboard over his head and stuff like that, right? There are these characters and they have nothing to do with the main story, and as a result, they're kind of one of the weaker ones. But the movie itself is kept together by this whole thing about be true to yourself and accept yourself and others, right? Which is a very sappy message, but I think because it's wrapped up in the fun and in the jokes, it becomes more palatable. In just looking at like discourse surrounding this movie, nobody talked about how preachy it was or how sappy it was or how it talked down to anybody, like the kinds of complaints that you would get about a movie like this today. And that's because it's fun. Like we talked about this, I think, with a few movies, but we talked about this with Conclave as well, where if you have a message, you need to wrap it up in a way that appeals to people first. And if you do that, then people will not mind being told a message. But if it's like homework or if it's like a lecture, then that's where people reject it. And there's a movie from 2002, and this has like jokes in it that would not go well today, right? A couple at least. But it's also like the friend group is this really diverse group. It's got this message about acceptance and including everybody and regardless of who they are and all of that. I do think there's something there. I think the reason nobody's bothered by this, and the reason why it has this reputation as being a fun movie is because it puts the fun first.
And it's like quite relatable as well, because like everyone's been to school, everyone's kind of been in that mixing pot and sort of the melting pot that is school, and sort of kind of being in this group or that group, or something like being in the in group, or kind of not quite fitting it in, or like wanting to be like slightly different to kind of sort of hang out with another crowd. So there's like that element of like relatability that's also kind of like buried underneath all the sort of the jokes and the comedy that's within this. So it's like, okay, yeah, like the message can be a little bit sappy if you sort of really peel it back and feel it. But again, it's like, okay, like I can, you can almost like laugh at maybe some of your experiences. You can maybe even like laugh at like what things kind of could have been like in your time or whatever. Like there's just like that like element of like relatability and just like kind of like finding the jokes and finding the fun in it. And even like for someone that's probably even like grown up, you can even like look back at it and be like, man, I was like so stupid to try and like do this or do that. And like you can even like try and even like see, oh, I even had like this phase in my life where I was like kind of like this way or whatever like that, and then obviously you kind of like grew out of it and stuff like that. It's just like, yeah, there's just like so much element of, okay, you can kind of sort of understand and like see that type of pull, and I feel like they handled that aspect of it quite well in this as well. And just, I mean, I wouldn't say quite well, because it was like quite overt of like what was in, what was out, and it was kind of like a bit like in your face about how we made the change. But like I said, you can just kind of see some type of like relatability to sort of your experience in school in there or whatever.
And I think the most relatable scene, or most universal scene, is in the record shop when he's out shopping with Danielle and he runs into his old friends and he's embarrassed about them and he denies knowing them. I think many people, maybe not everybody, but many people have been on at least one of those two sides, either where you did that or where that was done to you. And I think like the friends really sell it really well, where they realize what's happening and that they've lost a friend because he's popular now and they aren't. I've experienced that, like growing up at like 14, 15 or something, when you think popularity is the most important thing. 100%. And or when you like two groups of friends that don't normally interact come together and at least one of them makes you look bad or something like that, or at least you think they make you look bad or something, right? I think that is very relatable.
I think it was just moments before that when the girl, his girl at the time, was saying what happened with her and her old friend. That's what for me felt like, oh damn, that actually happened with me as well in this situation. So yeah.
Which is kind of the same thing, right? Like she's not exactly embarrassed, but she's very cold to her friend because now she's popular and she has better things to do than hang out with her old friends.
Exactly.
Right? It's the same kind of thing, yeah.
You know what, though, guys? I'm not trying to even be like a moody grandpa or nothing, right? But I didn't really take a film for like it being like a profound, like having like profound, deep messaging in the film. Like I do see, we all see the theme is pretty much out there. I'm just trying to find it hard to see the replay value in this, as in like if I like I said, I enjoyed the movie. Don't get twisted. I enjoyed the film. It's just for me, I just find it hard to see what's so different about this movie in comparison to any other movie like this, especially like in its time. Because I'm pretty sure there was like other movies like this back in the day. Even though the theme wasn't like the selling point, because the selling point is mainly like the whole is like you said, Daniel. The fun is pretty much like the selling point of the film.
For me, this is one of those that I kind of categorize as like just like a feel good movie that I know if I catch it on somewhere, I will just like kind of like enjoy what I'm watching, and it's like an immediately like easy watch. It's not like the type of movie that I'd like, kind of like rush back and like play over and over again. It's not that type of movie for me, but it's just one that like if I'm like kind of scrolling through TV and I saw like the new guy was on and I let it play for a little bit, I probably end up sitting there and watching like the whole thing because it's like that type of just like feel good, enjoyable, easy watch type of movie for me.
Like, at least for me, I don't know many movies of this kind that balance the fun and the substance as much. So either they're just dumb jokes that kind of get tired once you've seen them 5-6 times, or it's like about the heartfelt story, but that's not fun exactly, right? That's kind of like, for instance, Superbad is a movie I quite like, but I don't go out of my way to rewatch it because the fun bits, right? The whole thing about like where McLovin goes on his odyssey to get some beer, right? And he gets caught up with these cops, and it gets crazier and more dangerous, and gets like this is like that part of the movie is fun, but there are large chunks of it that aren't, that are just kind of like friends working through the issues. And with this, it's the somber stuff never lasts for more than a couple of minutes, and then I think of something fun to do, like the party or Dizzie's attempts to get expelled, or the prison stuff, or like the funk concert at the end. You only have to wait a couple of minutes, never more than 5 to 10 minutes, until something fun happens again. And I think that is what makes it easy watching. And I think on that pacing level, I think it's really quite good. And for me, there are no stretches that really drag. I think that makes it rewatchable.
Yeah, I was just finding it hard to kind of like see it in you guys' lens, because it's like I'm sure there's many movies with this type of storyline, right? I did find it a bit over the top at times, as in like
yeah, that's the point.
Like and that is the point. So it's just one of them ones, if that's for you or not. And well, that's what I was surprised, because usually I wouldn't say it's not for me, but usually this isn't really the type of stuff that I watch. But then when I watched this, it felt refreshing, because it just, and when I say refreshing, because I usually watch the same type of stuff, dystopia, post-apocalyptic, so it felt refreshing watching something different.
So you're right at home in the high school setting.
I'm right at home in the high school
because you're
setting.
used to dystopias.
Yeah, okay. I see. Okay, yeah.
But seriously, like this whole high school is prison thing, like a lot of people, like that's pretty much everybody's experience on some level, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the selling point of this movie is relatability, like 100%. It pretty much covers a certain point in your life in terms of the viewer. And you are right, it kind of it manages well to kind of like balance between, the funness and the seriousness at the same time, in terms of like the points that it's like the themes that it's covering. So yeah, man, this it's a good movie. It's a fun movie. And like one thing as well, like I mentioned before, was like the influence of cultures and how they kind of meshed well together. Because obviously you got like the whole, should we call it hip hop? I don't want to call it black culture, because black culture will be presented as we saw church and then we saw prison. I don't want to make it seem
also
like
funk.
Yeah,
exactly. Like the original band that sang Whip It, that was a black band, like a black band.
Exactly. So you see,
and that's Dizzie's idol, right? We see that early, like in the montage at the beginning, right?
Yeah, exactly. So them, coming together. And one thing as well, this did really feel like an early 2000 type of movie, and I think Hervey's even said is like it made him want to go move to America, because like even TV shows, like shows in Nickelodeon, what's the Orange Soda show back in the day? I forgot it was King and Kel. I think so. I don't know. I forgot what it was, but like it just had that early 2000 feel that even made me want to go to America at a point, because it was just fun, like just seeing how just everything about America back in the day, the way that was presented in movies back in the day was so fun. So like watching this, it definitely gave that nostalgia feel, which I really enjoyed. Was this movie needed for its time? Like, was there like some sort of identity crisis that kids were going through? Kids have always they will always go through an identity crisis in every country, in every during their whole school years, they'll always go through an identity crisis. But in America during this time, was there some sort of was there like a serious issue on pretty much bullying going on at the time?
So early 2000s was really the time where being a jerk was cool. Like both in movies and in the real world, where picking on the less popular people and kind of deriving status from being able to punch down. That was kind of a common thing. It's not everybody all the time, right? But I got bullied in school. I got looked down on for my hobbies and interests and that sort of thing, especially if you kind of had like geeky hobbies and stuff like that. That was not respected at all. I'm still not sure it is today, really. Like people say the Nerds of Wonder thing. I really think that happened. But like back then you were openly antagonized for it, right? Where you were actively kind of shut out and people would kind of publicly make fun of you and people would applaud it. Like this whole thing about the short guy who plays the tuba, Ed is his name, I think. Like him being stuffed in a barrel and rode down a hill. That's more extreme than stuff I saw in the early 2000s, but stuff like this, right? I saw people locked into like closets and stuff like that. And bullying is a thing that happened. Yeah. And it was all about like social dominance and about asserting like that you were on top and that sort of thing. And that is something like, and you see that in a lot of shows like from that time as well, where usually the bad guys did this, but it's like a fairly ubiquitous thing. And I've heard from like people who know like high schoolers today that doesn't really happen anymore, at least not in an open, violent way. It's maybe more about gossiping and talking about people on social media and stuff like that. But like in my time, it was like physical, like you could get like physically attacked if you were sufficiently low on the totem pole. Yeah.
And I'm glad, I think with me as well, I think I missed that kind of window in terms of like the seriousness of bullying, like, you know, the whole bullying stage. Because of course that was going on in my school as well, but it wasn't so new guy type of bullying.
Well, I mean,
I did know that it happened.
Exaggerated, right? For
no, it's exaggerated.
But the kind of thing that kind of thing was fairly common early 2000s.
No, 100%. But it happened. But I know that's exaggerated, but it was like before I went, I don't know, I think I went to start high school in 2007. But before that, I knew it was serious. Like, for example, there was a school called John Kelly, not too far from the school that I went to, and that school was bad. That was like, it was Copeland and John Kelly. Those schools were notorious for like stuff like that as well. And I think my school kind of was as well, but when I went, that's when they were kind of like transforming a bit. So I definitely do see how this would be like more relatable for people that were like just a bit older than me. I'm old. I'm 27. I'm gonna be 28 in a couple of days, couple of weeks. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, you know, people who were in like the whole high school, maybe in the early 2000s. I understand how that would be relatable for them, because I can tell that bullying was definitely like not the same, but it was definitely similar to what we saw.
And more than anything else, being popular was the most important thing.
Yeah.
This was pre-social media as well, so it was like your world was very small, but everybody knew about what everybody thought about everybody, like in terms of social standing, and being popular was generally considered among the most important things. And being normal and popular and accepted and all of that. So when like that, and that's why Dizzie goes through these lengths to be cool, and that is why he so quickly forgets his old life. It's because like that is success for him. That is victory. That is him achieving everything he's ever wanted. But it comes at the cost of his old life, right? And he has to leave his old friends behind. And he kind of half-heartedly tries to reconcile the two. But until he really gets established, he really has to choose between the two, right?
That's always been a thing. And there was definitely worse back in the day. I think I don't know what's going on in high school now, but that was like the end all be all. Like, if you weren't popular, then my friend, like, school wasn't tough, but it's like being popular. That was like most people's goals.
Yeah,
that's why I respect the guys that were always in the library, because they're fast thinking, bro. Like, you ain't trying to, you know what I'm saying, build up your stripes or your, you know what I'm saying, your credibility or your popularity in school. But then obviously you see them now, like, oh, okay, I see. You guys are definitely winning now. But I hope it's changed now in high school. I definitely hope it's changed now.
One thing that, so I've said in a few different places that I've noticed that good movies have a tendency to change the rules at the 50% mark, right? This is exactly what happens in this movie too. Not exactly, it's like maybe 55% or something, where Dizzie kind of decides to bring the worlds together and to try to not leave his friends behind. That happens at the 50% mark. It's not something he just decides at the last minute in the last scene, and that is the happy end. He makes that decision at maybe 60% of the way through the movie, and then the second half is about him trying to make that work. I've just noticed this in a few different movies now, where that is like that is how you make a good movie. That is how you don't drag out a premise. That is how you kind of keep things fresh, and that's how you keep things moving, and that's how you make things more satisfying, where you can actually explore like a character's decision because you've got an entire half of a movie to deal with it. Dizzie's kind of attempt to redeem himself takes up like 40% of the movie or something like that. And because of that, I think it's more impactful. And I think that is also one of the reasons why it works. He does not simply have a change of heart in the last 10 minutes and then his friends forgive him and then they hug and then movie's over. Like he has to actually live with that decision or has to try to make him work, and we have to watch him make it work for a solid 40 minutes or whatever it might be. And I think that's huge. I think that's a big part of why this movie is as compelling as it is.
Mm-hmm. I think like throughout they keep it fresh in terms of like how they build them up, because even at the start, like one of the criticisms we've had for some previous movies is that they don't show the learnings, they don't show the protagonist kind of overcoming and like slowly becoming who they are essentially. And like in this movie, some could say it could be played out. I thought it was like kind of like the right amount of time of just kind of like showing him learning how to be the man he wants to be in his new school, and like how to like kind of like dominate and be like top of the food chain and stuff like that, which was like quite interesting. So like I feel like there's like there's that section at the very start, and then you then have like that moment of like him establishing himself as that person in the new school. And like you said, at 50-60% mark, it's that change of like trying to bring the worlds together, and then at the very end it's like, okay, like who really are you? And like you kind of have to like it's your like past coming back to haunt you, like the start of the like the very start of the movie. Someone's like kind of like pulling it almost full circle, where the start of the movie come back to haunt him, and he has to like face a demon from the past and like has to overcome that. So I feel like throughout they show, and then there's so many movies that don't do this, which is so crazy. It's just like a good character growth and character arc in him, where he's just constantly changing, constantly developing, constantly and it's not off a whim. It's because of his experiences, because it's because of what he's going through, and it's okay, like he's been bullied in the school, like or he has a situation where he's embarrassed so badly that he feels like he needs to completely like get himself excluded. He can't go back to the school that he's at, and then everything that kind of comes after that is just based on the events that happen in the movie and his experience, as opposed to just a sudden change of heart or a sudden realization without much context behind it.
It fluctuates in terms of his character, but like on the upwards trajectory, as in like it's building to something. Whereas a lot of the character arcs now is very linear, and then you'll see a little, hike, but then it'll just go back to kind of like being linear and basic. Whereas his one, it's more real, if that makes sense, because it's constant internal like conflict within himself is presented in the way that he's acting.
And there's like stages to it, right? It's not like he goes from one to the other instantly. Like that is something I also see a lot in movies made in the past decade or so, is where a character changes their mind, but you don't see the moment where they change their mind, right? There is no emphasis at all put on them being conflicted and trying to make a decision and then making a decision. They just change from one scene to the next. And that is something that drives me crazy, where we never really saw like what it was that changed, or where they made that decision, or how they wrestled with that. And like here that is like the entire journey, right? Dizzie's journey comes in like 5 or 6 different stages, and he's very explicit about where he's at, right? Like what he wants in that moment, and how he kind of tries to, like, to what extent he needs to reconcile his old life and his new life and all of that. But it's gradual, and we know what the turning points are. Like, I think you're right that is something that a lot of character arcs miss, where they go like from 0 to 100 instantly.
Yeah. But one thing I did enjoy about this one, like even like in the turning point, like especially like in the record store, right? Like usually what made this movie a fun movie, and they still tackled, like there was a good balance, was because even though like in the record store where he pretty much denied his friends, they still made it fun. Like they could have left it like that, and that could have been like, oh, that was a sad moment. But they still made that scene fun and enjoyable, because straight afterwards, his 2 other friends were on the mic, and they were like, they were pretty much shaming him for what he did. You know what I'm saying?
Would Dizzie Harrison please pick up his balls and scroll to
Yeah, exactly. So,
and then they get beaten up by the bouncer who took a job. Like, this bouncer guy has a mini arc, right? Yeah. Where he used to be a bouncer, and now he wants to work in a record store, but he can't really let go of his past, and he's got this friendship with his manager who keeps trying to help him, but it's there's like a mini arc just in this one scene, which is fun.
I said that was Vanilla Ice. Or am I bugging out? Was that Vanilla Ice?
It says here cameo appearance by Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
don't know.
Ice.
I don't know musicians.
He's the song Ice Baby.
No, I know who that, but I didn't know that was the Bonza guy.
Yeah.
I did notice she was funny reference. Was it what's her name? Is it Zoe Deschanel? Like that?
Yeah.
But basically Deschanel, yeah. She was obviously in this movie as the new guy, and then obviously had her own TV show, The New Girl, which is just a fun little Easter egg in there.
A shocking case of typecasting.
Yeah. But she's great. She's great. I actually really liked that. That was a great show. The New Girl.
New Girl is great.
I enjoyed it.
I do have some negatives if we want to go over that. So one thing I think it does not do well enough is to kind of justify why he gets that accepted to the point in New School, but to the point where everybody just follows him. I just don't really buy that. Like, yes, I understand that he's popular because he's the cool guy and he does exactly what everybody expects the cool guy to do, but he's just the instant leader, right? And I never quite understood why that was. I understand being popular, but like when he says, I get the part where Danielle says, "Hey, if you show up to the football game, then other people will also show up." But then he's instantly a leader, and everybody just rallies to his example. And I feel like there's like one or two steps missing, and there's something to be said for like exaggerating for effect, where people are that much of a sheep. And just follow whoever is popular and do whatever is popular. But I don't feel like that, like everything else is so explicit in terms of the steps characters take on their journey, right? And this is the one part that's kind of rushed.
I actually don't think so. I think it actually did come with steps to him becoming the leader, because with strength, right, even in high school, like usually the strongest guy is like, it comes with automatic respect. Because even after he beat up the popular guy, I don't think he became a leader straight after. He became a leader straight after the football match. So before that, he was still kind of like building up his rep.
So Danielle asks him so he gets popular. Danielle asks him to show up to the game. He shows up to the game, dresses up as General Patton, gives the rallying speech. They win a game, and then everybody loves him overnight.
But before that, remember, because he beat up the guy, and then the girls approached it.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, once the guy saw that he gets the girls, that's building up to his rep. So then he's still not a leader at that point, but those are the two stages: was beating up the guy, people seeing that you get girls, and then you gave that whole speech, which led to your school winning. So I think those 3 steps. That's
I don't think it's broken. I just think it needed a few more, and especially because that's really important, right? Because suddenly everybody follows, or even if it's just been about like a character or two saying why they think he's so cool. Right? Now, I understand that this whole thing, like, it's about prison, it's about gangs, it's about people defer to the most dominant person of that. I get that's the joke, but I feel like that's the part where I kind of have to go with it. And everything else works a lot better on a story level and a character level. Any other thoughts on the new guy? It says underrated, overrated.
I would say underrated. Well, to be fair, I don't even know. I don't know how it was received. I don't know what the reception is for this. I don't know whether it's considered a classic. What's the Rotten Tomatoes for it?
So box office was $31 million on a $13 million budget. So it was a success at the time. Let's see. Rotten Tomatoes.
7%.
7% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's critics 7% and audience is 54%.
Wow.
So I
both
kind of understand that in terms of why would critics not like this.
Oh, but I feel like they just don't have like any not sense of humor, but it's like they want things to be so profound, and just sometimes can't you just watch a movie and have a good time for the moment?
Yeah. And I wonder from when those reviews are. Like how recent those reviews are. Rotten Tomatoes, I don't think was around in 2002. So I don't know when this started. And I don't know who's reviewing the new guy in 2020. But yeah, critics hate this. And I'm actually not sure, like, it's not that poorly aged, right? I don't think there's really anything really where I say, ooh, that's not a good look anymore. Like, there's one or two little things here or there, but they're over very quickly. It's essentially the plot of a very special episode from a sitcom from like 1994, right? Where there's like the new kid in school, and maybe they're in a wheelchair or something, and then the characters learn a very important lesson about not judging or something, right? That's basically the plot of this, in a way.
Yeah.
And it seems like critics should like this, right? Because it's not subtle at all. But also maybe it's not sanctimonious enough, so it doesn't feel important. I don't know. But yeah, I'm surprised that like I knew it was low. I didn't know it was 7%. All right, let me check something.
I'm sure if it was more X-rated, then that percentage would have gone up.
Yeah, so Madame Web is 11%. Twice as many critics thought Madame Web was a good movie or worth recommending compared to The New Guy. And that's just ridiculous.
Madame Web. I didn't even know you're searching up for Madame Web.
Well, what else am I going to do? It's a benchmark for everything.
What we can say about Madam Web, because we always complain, right, that films nowadays don't have a cultural impact. Madam Web had a cultural impact, a big one.
People are certainly talking about it. But like 11% of critics say a movie that is so broken it's not even like it's just like the reanimated corpse of 6 different movies. Twice as many people think that is worth recommending compared to The New Guy, which is like a wholesome story about getting along and like not being a bully. I don't get it.
That's why you never pay attention to the critics score, man.
Yeah.
Like I or the audience score, to be fair, because 54% to me is low. I know we kind of like brush past that. 54% to me kind of surprises me, considering what audiences lap up these days, and things like Jurassic World or like King Kong or whatever, like they're getting like mainly positive scores. Like it kind of shocks me, but again, different times, different whatever.
I think if you casually watch The New Guy and you kind of maybe watch 10 minutes of it on TV or you catch a clip on YouTube or something, it can look like a dumb comedy like any other from that time. And maybe if you catch the wrong clip, then maybe it looks worse than it is or something. So I can kind of get it being a coin flip for people. So you're either into this style or you're not. It's kind of what 50% means. Right, it's not 50. It's not a 50% movie. It's half of people recommend it. Right, that's what that means.
Yeah.
And that just means kind of it's an acquired taste. But 7% just means should mean this is like the worst of the worst. Yeah, so I don't empathize with that at all. I think I'm just like I recognize that some of my love for this movie is nostalgia, that I saw it at just the right time. So I graduated from high school 2005. If I saw it in maybe 2005 or 6, I would have been exactly in the right frame of mind for this. That's part of it, right? But I actually do think, like, I've actually revisited some movies I really was into at that age, and I've not given them another look because they're just not held up. I think this holds up. I think this is fun. I think this is creative. I think it's got some great actors in it. I don't think there's anything in this you need to really apologize for very much. It's about something without being heavy. It's good. It's not high art. And a movie doesn't need to be. Like this is like the incarnation of movies don't have to be art, because there's not much artistic about this, but it is a good time.
And it's needed. It's needed. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, not everything has to be about trauma, and definitely not everything has to be about art.
And I wonder what the backlash will be. Like at some point, will people get tired of it and just want dumb fun? And then I wonder what that looks like. Like, will people go too far in the other direction and things get cynical and cold-hearted again, like they were in the early 2000s, where being the jerk and being cooler than everybody else and not caring was the ultimate status symbol? That's kind of what the other extreme looks like. And I wonder if we ever come back to that. And I want to wonder what that looks like and why that happens. Usually kind of the cultural pendulum swings about once every decade or so, where people overdo something and they try to find balance in the other thing, and then they overdo that, and then it swings back again. And it feels like we can't go much further than where we currently are, where stuff like elevated horror and where every movie is about traumatic childhoods and whatever. Like at some point it gets too much. I think there's a place for that. I think there's always been a place for that. But at some point, there has to be a backlash. And I don't know what that looks like.
Stay tuned, as in, like, stay tuned to see how it plays out.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, but in the meantime, I'm going to rewatch The New Guy every 2 years or so and have a good time with it. So any last words, any final verdict on The New Guy?
Good, stupid fun with enough of a kind of like heartfelt story behind it to make this one that I can categorize in my feel-good type of movies. Very, very solid performance here.
For me, it's pretty much what Daniel was saying before, but it's not really a heavy film, but it's kind of like there still were like serious topics discussed in a fun way, and I definitely give them credit for that as well. Even though it was dumb at times, but it was dumb fun. And I will agree with that. I had a good time with this. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning into today's discussion, which didn't turn into a debate. You're going to have to tune us in for another episode for that. But
Yeah, let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Is this one that you've caught? Is this kind of one of your sort of classic movies that you enjoy sort of like revisiting? Is it the first time you're discovering this movie? What did you think about it? And of course, if you liked what we talked about today, tell a friend. And if you hated everything, tell an enemy. We are the Eye of the Storm podcast.
Thank you very much, guys. We will catch you next week. Au revoir.
Ciao.
Bye bye.